नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. So we are continuing with Bhagavad Gita as it is. Chapter number 13, Nature, the Enjoyer and Consciousness. Text number 30. प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः यः पश्यति तथात्मानम् अकर्तारं स पश्यति. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Purport. This body is made by material nature under the direction of the supersoul, and whatever activities are going on in respect to one's body are not his doing. Whatever one is supposed to do, either for happiness or for distress, one is forced to do because of the bodily constitution. The self, however, is outside all these bodily activities. This body is given according to one's past desires. To fulfill desires, one is given the body with which he acts accordingly. Practically speaking, the body is a machine designed by the Supreme Lord to fulfill desires. Because of desires, one is put into difficult circumstances to suffer or to enjoy. This transcendental vision of the living entity, when developed, makes one separate from bodily activities. One who has such a vision is an actual seer. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmanitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Welcome to all of you for the Bhagavad Gita class today. We are continuing with chapter number 13. And as we can see, and as we will see towards the end of the chapter, Krishna is again and again explaining to Arjuna the importance between the body and the soul. It's important to understand the difference. And here also in this verse, he's trying to explain to Arjuna to go beyond the bodily concept, right? He's saying that this body is made of material elements, whereas the soul is eternal and it is spiritual. Now we've learned all this in chapter 2, and then we learned a little bit more in 3, and then again in 5, so in again in 7. So Krishna is again and again repeating the same thing. Why? Because it's a very important subject matter to understand. So from this verse we see that all the activities that are being performed, they are being performed by the body. It has nothing to do with the soul. So how do these activities come about? Prabhupada also explains very nicely that this body is there to fulfill our desires. We have a lot of desires, and based on those desires, our actions are performed. And the soul is outside of all these activities. Soul has nothing to do with the activities that we perform with our senses, with our body. So now the question is, like Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport also, how did we get this particular type of body? Now, if we see all of us here today in this class, each one of us has a different body. You know, my body doesn't match with any of yours, and vice versa. Why? Because this particular body is received based on our past karma, past activities, our nature. Based on all that and the desires that we had, to fulfill those desires, we've got this body, and we have got this particular kind of body with a particular kind of nature, and in a particular family, in a particular country, for a reason. It is like, many times I give this example, that I go on Amazon.com and I place an order, right? I say, okay, I want this item in this color with these features or whatever it is. And what happens when UPS delivers it? It is as it is, right? What I ordered. So similarly, this body is based on what we have ordered in our previous life. So, based on those activities, past karma, past desires, we have come into a particular situation. And this body is considered like a machinery which actually is there to fulfill our desires. So, this body is being used to satisfy our desires. In fact, in the previous chapter, Lord Krishna explained to Arjuna. In fact, Prabhupada in his purport explains that we can consider this body to be like a boat and this material world like an ocean, like material ocean. And we can use this boat to cross over this ocean. Now, to cross over the ocean, it's not sufficient to just be in the boat, right? The soul is in the body, so we are like a passenger in the boat. That's not sufficient. We need a captain, someone who can guide the boat in the right direction. Not only that, we also need favorable winds, right? Otherwise, the boat can turn upside down and we can get drowned or whatever. So what are those favorable winds? Those are the scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas. They are like the favorable wind, and the spiritual master is the captain of the boat. And this body then can easily cross over this material ocean and go on the other side, which is go back to the spiritual world. So these desires that we've been having life after life after life, these are leading to activities, and those activities are again leading us to another body. So this cycle is going on and on. So, who is the culprit? Where does it all start from? It all starts from desire. So, we have to be very careful about what we desire. So, the desires actually lead to activities, and those activities in turn result in either happiness or distress. Now, who's responsible for those the whether it is happiness or distress? Who is responsible? It is us. It is our desires. It is our activities that leads that. So that means we have the minute independence to choose. So we choose. What do we want to choose? We want to choose right or we want to choose wrong. So it is up to us. And also, it is up to us. In fact, the next chapter, which is called The Modes of Material Nature, that we will cover, Krishna explains to Arjuna that how we choose in which mode we want to operate in, whether we want to operate in goodness, passion, or ignorance, or a mixture of these modes. So we make that choice. Now, to make the right choice, that is why Krishna has given us the Bhagavad Gita, so we can make the right choice. So we have the right desires, so that we perform our activities as per the scriptures. Then we will not fail. Then what will happen? We will be able to break the cycle of birth and death. So it's important to understand how all these things work, right? So desires, then comes the body, then comes the activities, then again comes some more desires and some more activities and some more bodies. So this, vicious circle is just going on and on and on. But if we take on the knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita and understand that I am not this body, I am the spirit soul, and all these activities are being performed by the body, the soul has nothing to do with it, and we try and go above this bodily concept of life, right? Yes, it is important to keep the body and soul together, to maintain it. Yes, we need to keep it clean, we need to keep it healthy. Yes, we need to take care of the body, but in the process we should not forget the soul. Soul is also important. We need to feed the soul. We are, of course, trying hard, we are working hard to do what? So that we can feed the body, we can take care of the body, we can enjoy the body. But what about the soul? In this process, we should not forget the soul. So, here in this verse, Krishna is explaining to Arjuna who is the person who actually sees, right? The one who actually has the correct vision. Who is that person? That person who can understand I'm not the body, I'm the spirit soul. The activities are being performed by the body, and the soul is has nothing to do with those activities. The soul is beyond or above or outside of these activities. That person, Krishna says, is a person who actually sees. So, in other words, if somehow or the other we can wear the glasses of Bhagavad Gita, of knowledge, if somehow we have the correct lens. Now, if supposing I have these not contacts, these glasses, what do you call the lens, or what do you call this? Whatever, right? If it is tinted red, what will I see? Everything will be red for me. Now, whose fault is it? Is it that all of you are wearing red clothes today? No, it is my problem because my lenses are red. That's why I'm seeing everything red. So, similarly, when my lenses are covered with Bhagavad Gita, with the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, then I will actually see. Does that make sense? Then we will be actually able to see what is right and what is wrong. Let's see what Krishna has to say in verse number 31. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. Purport. When one can see that the various bodies of living entities arise due to the different desires of the individual soul and do not actually belong to the soul itself, one actually sees. In the material conception of life, we find someone a demigod, someone a human being, a dog, a cat, etc. This is material vision, not actual vision. This material differentiation is due to a material conception of life. After the destruction of the material body, the spirit soul is one. The spirit soul, due to contact with material nature, gets different types of bodies. When one can see this, he attains spiritual vision, thus being freed from differentiations like man, animal, big, low, etc. One becomes purified in his consciousness and able to develop Krishna consciousness in his spiritual identity. How he then sees things will be explained in the next verse. Again, most important part of this verse is sensible man, right? Who is a sensible man? Someone who can see with the help of knowledge, who can see properly, which means a person stops speculating, right? The problem with human beings is we speculate a lot, especially when it comes to spiritual topics. We are expert in speculation. Oh, in my opinion, God is this. According to me, this is this. So that speculation is very dangerous. We must go by bona fide authority, by bona fide scriptures, and get knowledge from there. So, a sensible man is such who does not speculate and who understands that it is karma, it is our desires that leads to activities, which means we are building up our karma that leads to another particular type of body. So we have to be very, very careful on what we desire. Now Krishna says, I am situated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, forgetfulness, and knowledge. Now there are three options we can choose. Do we want to remember him? Do we want to forget him? Do we want his knowledge? Based on our desire, he is going to fulfill that desire. So, whose choice is it? It is our choice. What do we choose? Now, for instance, that, we get an opportunity to hear Bhagavad Gita or maybe watch a movie. Now, it is our choice. What do we do? What do we choose? Do we want to hear Bhagavad Gita or do we want to watch a movie? Based on our desires, based on our, after desiring, trying to fulfill that desire, based on that, we are building up our next karma. So we cannot blame anyone for whatever situation we are in. If I have problems with my body, if I have problems, for why I, if any of us have problems with our health, our body, our family, our job, our boss, whose fault is it? We cannot blame anyone. It is like, a lady goes to the doctor and the doctor diagnoses, correct diagnosis, that this is the disease you have, and here are the three pills and you need to take it 3 times every day, and this is how you will get cured. Now as she gets the medication, she comes home and she looks at her family and she distributes the medicine to them. She says, oh, I think you are sick, you are sick, you are sick, here are 3 tablets, take 3 times a day. Who's, does that make sense? No. If I am diseased, I need to take the medicine. I cannot give it to someone else. So we cannot blame others for all the misfortunes that may be in our lives or miseries that may be in our lives, or if we have problems with finances or body or health or whatever it may be, we cannot blame anyone for our sufferings, for our bad luck, for our miseries, or whatever it may be. So here in this verse, excuse me, Krishna is saying, who is the actual seer, the one who actually sees? That person is one who can understand the difference between the body and the soul. Now, one may say that we've been hearing this since chapter 2, right? Why is Krishna again and again talking same thing over and over again? You're not this body, you're the soul. Why? Because it's very, very important. He wants us to come out of this bodily concept of life. He wants us to, not just when we look at someone, we don't just look at, think about just the body, right? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Cheva Swapakecha Panditaha Samadarshina. Pandita means a learned person. A learned person is one Samadarshina, which means he has equal vision. He sees everyone equally. It doesn't matter what body it is, whether it is a dog eater, an elephant, or a learned brahmana, doesn't matter. He sees all bodies equally, which means he has realized that all these bodies, they are not just the bodies, there is a soul inside those bodies. So a learned person, a pandita, is one who is samadarshina, who has equal vision. So that is what Krishna wants us to do, is to not just identify with the body, but also understand that there is a soul, and not forget that there is a soul in that body. And not only that, in the purpose, Srila Prabhupada explains about material vision and spiritual vision, if you remember. So, what is a material vision? That means a person is only looking at the body. That's about it. But the spiritual vision is that a person knows that whether it is a bird or a fish or an animal or a demigod or a human being, whoever it is, all are parts of the Supreme Lord. They are all spiritual and eternal because they are a spirit soul. The body is just a covering for that particular lifetime. That's about it. So, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, especially in chapter 2, Krishna talks a lot about the soul. And he makes us understand that, the soul cannot be killed, it cannot be withered by the wind, it cannot be drowned, it cannot be burnt, which means, in other words, the soul is eternal. No one can damage or destroy or kill the soul, because soul is a part of the Supreme Lord. So when I was talking about, going beyond the bodily concept, and not only just feeding the body, but feeding the soul also, what does that actually mean? Feeding the soul means we not only hear and read Bhagavad Gita, but we also chant. Chanting, just like I bring a seed, for a flower, and I sow it in the mud, and then in a pot, in the mud, I sowed it. Then what do? I need to water it. I need to give it some sunshine. I need to, put a fence so that, it's not destroyed by anyone. So the watering process for that seed. So why are we talking about the seed? Because in the heart there is a seed of devotion, and in that seed of devotion, watering is very, very important. And when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that is watering the seed. That is like feeding the soul, because that is what is required, because that seed is then finally going to fructify. It's going to, um, grow, and that is going to help us progress even spiritually. So what is spiritual vision? Spiritual vision means I am not this body, I am the soul. But because of coming in contact with material nature, I have got this body. And so now it is time for me to become free from all these designations, right? What are the designations? I'm a woman, I'm a man, I am big, I'm small. All these different designations. I am a CEO, I'm just an accountant. What these are all designations for the body, whereas the spirit soul is absolutely pure. But what has happened, because we have this material body and we are in this material nature, we have become materially conditioned. Our consciousness is very much materialistic. We are only thinking about material things. But here we need to understand that this material consciousness need to be removed. It needs to be purified, and that can happen only with the help of knowledge. Only when we have knowledge, when we develop some Krishna consciousness with the help of knowledge, when we understand our spiritual identity, who we really are. Again and again, Krishna is saying, you are a spirit soul. You are your constitutional position is to be the servant of the Supreme Lord. So here in this verse also, again, Krishna is talking about a sensible man, right? Who ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies. So it is nothing to do with body, it has to be with the soul. Let's see verse number 32. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjuna, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled. Purport. A living entity appears to be born because of the birth of the material body, but actually, the living entity is eternal. He is not born, and in spite of his being situated in a material body, he is transcendental and eternal. Thus, he cannot be destroyed. By nature, he is full of bliss. He does not engage himself in any material activities. Therefore, the activities performed due to his contact with material bodies do not entangle him. See, a very, very important verse. Here, Krishna is giving us a formula how to free ourselves if we are entangled. Very, very important, right? So the soul is not doing anything. The soul is not the cause of entanglement at all, right? So what is causing the entanglement? It is our material desires and material activities. Now, Prabhupada is explaining in the purport that the birth of the material body, right? It is the body that is born. Soul is not born. Soul has no birth and no death, right? But the material body is what that comes into existence, and the soul is transcendental and eternal. Now, when a person understands this, that the soul is not born, it's just the body that takes the birth, then what will one do? One will dovetail one's activities towards Krishna. One will start the devotional path. One will start performing devotional service. Like Prahlad Maharaj has given us 9 processes of devotional service, like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vandanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedanam. So these are the different 9 processes of devotional service. And we start with Shravanam, which is hearing, which we are doing every Wednesday. Now, after hearing, then we have to go to the next step, which is Kirtanam, which means chanting of the holy names of the Lord. When we chant the holy names of the Lord, then we kind of become Krishnized, which means our consciousness starts changing from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness. Then one will become free. In chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has explained Yagnarthat karmano nyatra loko yam karma bandhana, right? Bandhana means bondage. So when work is not done as a sacrifice for the Supreme Lord, then that work causes bondage. But once one starts dovetailing the activities towards Krishna, then what will happen? There will be disentanglement. Then there's going to be freedom. Let's see today's last verse, number 33. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it is all pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in that body. Purport. The air enters into water, mud, stool, and whatever else is there, still it does not mix with anything. Similarly, the living entity, even though situated in varieties of bodies, is aloof from them due to his subtle nature. Therefore, it is impossible to see with the material eyes how the living entity is in contact with this body and how he is out of it after the destruction of the body. No one in science can ascertain this. Yes, even the doctors cannot ascertain because they cannot see the soul, right? Now, we know that the body and the soul are separate, they do not mix, right? Soul is separate from the body, just like in the verse and in the purport, nice description is given about the sky, right? The sky is all pervading, and the sky and the air or whatever, they don't mix at all. Like in the purport, Prabhupada explains, if the air goes through mud, stool, or whatever, it does not mix with those material elements. So, similarly, the soul is spread throughout the body as consciousness, but it does not mix with the body. So, it does not mix even though it is inside the body. So, this is how this verse has been explained. So, now the soul, just like Prabhupada explains that the air does not mix, going through different elements or whatever it is. Similarly, the soul is going in different bodies, but it is not mixing with those bodies at all, right? The soul is so small, according to the scriptures. It is 1/10,000th of the tip of the hair. Can't even see. The doctors, they know that all the energy comes from the heart. The scriptures tell us, Krishna has told us that the soul is in the heart. So it is the soul that is giving the energy to the whole body. It is because of the soul there is consciousness in the body. As soon as the soul leaves the body, as soon as the soul comes out of the heart and the body is dead. Now the doctors, they cannot see, they know the source of the energy comes from the heart in the body, but they don't know that it is the soul that is providing that energy. So this is very important to understand, that even though we cannot see the soul, it does not mean it does not exist, right? Just like I give you all like the example of, when I say I am hungry, can I show hunger? I cannot show it. I can just feel the hunger. So when I eat, then I can say, oh, my hunger is satisfied. There's no more hunger. Where did the hunger go? Where did it come from? We cannot see it. So similarly, we cannot see the soul, but we can perceive it with consciousness. As soon as we know that there is consciousness in the body, we know that there is soul in the body. So in all these verses that we took today, the main point was to actually see with the help of knowledge. But according to the scriptures, Krishna is explaining, Prabhupada also explains we should see with our ears. Now you may say, how can you see with your ears, right? You see with your eyes. But no, we see with our ears, which means we hear from the Shastras. That is very, very important, that we hear from a bona fide authority, because after we hear, then the next step should be to implement it. Implement what we hear, then we progress. Just hearing is good, but it is not good enough. We need to progress, right? We don't want to waste this human form of life in just doing the activities which even the animals do, right? Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. But we, because we have better intelligence, we have philosophical intelligence, we can think higher than the animals. Oh, who am I? Why am I here? Why am I suffering? How can I break the cycle of birth and death? How can I, remove all the suffering? How can I free myself? I don't want to be in bondage. All these questions can be answered from the Bhagavad Gita, right? This is a golden opportunity we have with this human form of life, that we can break this cycle. Family, friends, jobs, homes, cars, they all will come and they all will go. No, none of these things or people can save us from death. We ourselves, just like they say, you come alone, you stay alone, and you go alone. So we need to really, really take advantage of this golden opportunity we have got, to hear Bhagavad Gita. Then why not put it into practice and somehow or the other become more serious, because time is passing by. It's been more than a year, right? It's almost 1 year since we heard about COVID 19. 2019 is gone, 2020 is gone. We are in 2021 already. Half of January is almost gone, right? So before we know, 2021 also will be gone. So like this, the time is just passing by. So we don't want to, waste any time in just materialistic activities. Bhagavad Gita doesn't tell us that don't do anything and just sit down in one corner and chant. No, Krishna is told even Arjuna, yes, your job is to fight, you're a soldier, fight, but then have some Krishna consciousness, have some spiritual consciousness. It goes together. We're not going to live forever, right? The last moment can come anytime. So we need to become more serious about this, precious human rare form that we've got, and use it in the right way as per the Bhagavad Gita. Now, people generally, when the new year started, did anyone wish a sad new year? I wish you a sad new year. No. Everyone was wishing happy new year. Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to be loved, but they don't know how. I received this beautiful calendar of 2021 from someone, and it is about love. It says, let love surround you, and it gives us how to do that. Okay, it says, good things take time, life is beautiful, never stop dreaming, be in love with every moment, dreams do come true, create your opportunity, do more of what makes you happy. Wow. Make today amazing. This is for every month. Let life surprise you. Yeah, right, with COVID 19, right? Boom, big surprise. Let love surround you. Follow your dreams. And finally, enjoy the journey. How? These are really nice. It makes you feel so good. Wow. I wish, it's there every day. Just look at them. Wow, beautiful. But how do you become happy? How do you let love surround you? Bhagavad Gita. Very, very simple. Bhagavad Gita is what teaches us how we can become permanently happy, provided we follow the step by step process. So I am going to end now. If anyone has any questions.